This is Ali, better known as Optimum Tech. He's one of the biggest tech YouTubers out there whose main form of content is based on PCs, whether that be on reviews and tests and new parts coming out, or just making ridiculous builds that just juice out a ton of performance. But also he did have quite the bit of time where peripherals were a very big part of the channel too. His passion for performance has carried over into peripherals, using extraordinary mice like the Zornkonig M2K, a pure performance-based mouse with the best specs and the lightest weight. But it just didn't stop there. He set out on a journey creating his own mouse, something that is best suited to what his style would be, something limitless, something just based on pure input and performance, which we'll be looking at today. This is the ZERØ mouse. It's a 29-gram 3D printed mod kit that houses the Viper V2 Pro internals. The packaging is really clean. Inside we have a little card with two QR codes, one for the assembly video and one to join the Discord where you can voice your concerns or feedback on the ZERØ mouse. Then we have a sheet of pre-cut Pulsar super grips and the mouse shell, of course. Under the mouse is a set of X-ray pads Jade speed dots. It's the perfect choice for skates in my personal opinion. Lastly, a little battery sticker with this nifty little Easter egg of the mouse's logo. The shell itself is comprised of PA12 nylon, which is a very good general use plastic known for its toughness, tensile strength, impact strength, and the ability to flex without fracture, but at the cost of having good grip. Now the raw initial experience was pretty tough because of the texture. It's rough and bumpy but also slippery, and that's why we have these included super grips, which improves the experience by a ton. Now obviously getting into the assembly, which is very easy. You get the card and scan the QR code and watch the video, but hey, I'm doing it on cam anyways. We remove all the screws from the Viper V2 Pro shell with a Torx 6-bit. It's this funny 6-point star shape. Now just pretend I did have screws in my PCB. You take the smaller Phillips screwdriver bit and unscrew them all, as I'll show you what you need them for coming later. Remove this battery and the silly little plastic base it's attached to, as well as these side buttons because we can't use them with this mod kit. Lastly, we need to remove the PCB from the base, which is held down now by these plastic clips on the sides, so just pop them open and it falls out. Easy peasy. Now carefully remove the scroll wheel from the PCB as it saves you a lot of troubles when fitting into the shell. Now of course, take the ZERØ mouse shell and open the two clicks on the front. Just be careful to not overdo it though. Neatly slip the PCB into it so the scroll wheel encoder can just pop into the grooves as well as the screw holes aligning with the PCB. Cool, and now everything is seated. Now take those screws from the Viper PCB and screw them into place. Once again, just be careful not to overdo it as it could strip. Even though the PCB is very well seated, we prefer to add the screws into the PCB as I found out later on that it does also improve the click tension. Now just for some of you who may have an issue with the left click is making really good contact with the click plunger and the right isn't, or even just vice versa, just unscrew the one part of the PCB slightly. Take a small bit of aluminium tape or paper and fold it and stick it underneath this little lip and screw it back in. That should do it. If there's a little bit of pre or post travel, it can be tweaked with adding some extra aluminium tape under the plunger, which does close in that contact on the click. After the whole assembly, I finally experienced it for what it was as a whole. Looking at the shape, there's not a whole lot to be honest. Now the mouse comes in at 7.9 centimeters in length, whilst the width is around 5.2 centimeters. Taking a look at the front, the clicks are slanted just to resemble the style of an ergonomic mouse, just for that little bit of comfort. The clicks themselves are pretty low profile, which is always preferred. Now on the right click, I do get roughly 1.6 centimeters of height and 1.5 centimeters on the left. The feel on them, on stock, is pretty well tuned in. There was a choice made in the design for this little bump on the click triggers to account for post travel, and also keeping in mind that the clicks were made to have constant contact with the switch plunger to give us technically zero pre-travel. Once again, keep in mind this is 3D printed instead of mold injected, so some folks may have slight issues or just different experiences than I do. And like I said earlier, aluminium tape helps a lot with pre and post travel tweaking when it comes to any mouse. Now, the most interesting part of the mouse is the design choice of the sides. These are the only spots to grip onto, which was designed around Ali's choice of grip style. It's a pretty small surface area between 2.2 and 3 centimeters for all these pads, which really isn't a lot. So here we go into day one. Loading into the firing range on Apex and gripping it for the first time made me question quite a bit. I have large hands and mainly grip in a relaxed claw fashion with a slant to the right. Now, with the minimal amount of space I have to grip onto, I'm sitting here for a while just to contort my hands into this forced style of grip. It made me uncomfortable and honestly made me question if I can really commit to something like this. So initially I filmed each day and my experiences, but stuff went a bit messed up, so that idea is completely scrapped. But oh well, here goes. So my first bits of tracking in the 5-inch were honestly all over the place. But damn, does this mouse feel cool to use. Almost as if I'm aiming with my bare hand. Tweaking down some settings to better accommodate for the lack of weight and stopping power, I end up jumping into some games, and my tracking has never felt this insane. But also that doesn't change that my oven mitts are holding onto dear life on these little pads. So now I'm hitting the struggle bus and wanted to throw it against the wall, honestly. You know, fast forward a whole week and every day I use it for a couple hours and slowly adjust to it. I found a grip style that can semi-adjust to it in the form of almost a pincer claw. It gives me a bit more support whilst also having my hands slanted for comfort. Now regardless of the adjustments, there's still some things I feel that need to be worked on. First off is the lack of support on the sides. This was a potential issue I brought up a few months back and drew a solution that doesn't really change the core essence of the mouse to make it universal, but more to have any hand size, or well, most hand sizes, be able to adapt to it just by extending the sides. On top of that, a beneficial thing in my opinion would be to make the sides semi-curved to give a pocket for our fingers to kind of just pull into. Second would be to tweak the clicks. The size I don't mind whatsoever, they work great for however far forward you want to be able to actuate them, but their height is bothersome. It's too low, which I never say, but it just doesn't work well with being used with a scroll wheel. Reason being my ability to use it in the first place. I have to stretch my finger to reach it. But I also use my middle finger to scroll, and because of the more aggressive height difference, I keep hitting the side of the scroll wheel to use it and scroll forward or backwards instead of being able to hit my scrolls consistently for tap strafing and jumping. Third is the lack of side buttons. Yep, I know it is pretty obvious. I use it in all the games I play, so it made me feel inefficient or just a tad slow down to everything else I use just in that sense. It's a nitpick, but I can live without it. Lastly is a more personal thing. I would love to see a ZERØMOUSE Plus, just a tad bit wider of a back, making the base a trapezium shape instead of just a rectangle. Even so, this mouse does offer quite the experience. The mouse semi-destroys my experience for other mice. Now, to an extent, I felt that super light mice are all just a stupid idea, because we need that bit of heft to help us with stopping power, which is true. But after this week of only working with a mouse that lets the user be the only thing that can stop it was absurdly fun and eye-opening. I use this mouse on a speed pad with speed dots, so there's basically zero friction for the ZERØMOUSE. So it's a zero experience, if you will. There will be people that have a lot of love for this and also a lot of hate. Give it some time and we might see some awesome stuff in the future. Honestly, GG's to the success on Mr. Tech's first drop. Here's to the zero experience future. Thanks for watching guys, take care and peace.